Headlights cut through the night, tires scream, metal collides, time slows to a crawl. Every sound, every second, caught on camera. This is raw, this is real. Buckle up. The driver loses command as the car slides across the slick roadway. In a heartbeat, it slams into a traffic signal, bringing the turmoil to an end. A car is cut off in traffic and jerks sharply to avoid a crash. Instead, it smashes into a garage door, bursting straight inside. A reckless driver tries to cut someone off, pushing the limit. But the car fishtails out of control and slams straight into a roadside fence. The plane picks up speed along the runway, engines thunder with power. Suddenly it comes apart and detonates, turning the takeoff into a blazing catastrophe. Hitting a slick stretch of ice, the driver fights to regain control. But the skid only intensifies, ending in a violent collision with a car coming from the opposite direction. The plane descends unevenly, struggling to regain stability. Then, in a devastating instant, it slams straight into the ground with immense force. At a crowded junction, two cars enter at the same moment. Neither slows down, and the inevitable collision follows with a sharp, echoing smash. A delivery van veers into the oncoming lane without warning. In a split second, it crashes head-on with a small car, sending both vehicles spinning. As one car gingerly enters the junction, another rockets in from the right. The crash is abrupt and savage, the sound of impact reverberating through the crossroads. The paved road gave way right beneath a moving car, a terrifying moment captured on camera. A truck loses grip on the icy road, spinning like a merry-go-round. After several rotations, it slides straight into a parked car with a heavy impact. On a snowy roadway, a car loses traction and starts to slide sideways. Within moments, it slams into a stone wall, scattering debris across the white landscape. A race car rockets down the circuit at blistering speed before losing control. It pirouettes violently, cartwheeling across the surface in a haze of dust and twisted metal. A large cargo truck is parked at the shoulder, smoke slowly lifting from its bonnet as bystanders take out their phones, filming in shock while flames start to spread. Losing control at high speed, the car veers off the road. In the next instant, it slams into a tree, the force of the impact leaving no margin for error. Two cars approach the junction from different directions. In a moment of misjudgment, they slam together hard at the crossing. A car's brakes fail on a busy road, leaving the driver powerless. It slams into the vehicles ahead, veers off the road, and overturns after hitting a small embankment. The camera sweeps across a tranquil horizon. In the distance, a colossal fireball blossoms, climbing into the sky like a blazing mushroom cloud. The rocket ascends, engines thunder with potential, but within mere seconds it drops back to the pad and detonates in a searing flash, a breathtaking yet horrifying scene. At night, a car cruises calmly along a dark road, but up ahead, a truck sits unlit. Before the driver can react, the car plows straight into it. The video shows a deceptively mild bend that appears harmless at first glance. One car smashes into the guardrail, another gets a tire blowout, and a third meets the same end as if the turn itself were jinxed. A driver starts drifting in a supermarket car park, tires screeching across the tarmac. But control slips away, and the car smashes straight into the shopping cart bay. The video captures a single curb where vehicles of every kind keep wrecking. Cars, motorcycles, even scooters. It's as if this stretch of road is jinxed, claiming one driver after another. Trying to outrun the police, the driver slams into another vehicle. Within seconds, he leaps out and bolts on foot, leaving turmoil behind. A van tries to cross the railway just as the barriers descend, trapping it on the tracks. With nowhere to go, the driver can only wait until a speeding train plows into the rear of the vehicle. The truck lost control and slammed into a car. A stark reminder of how quickly crashes can happen. The car skids helplessly across the icy surface. It slams into the barrier, splintering wood and metal on impact. Three motorcyclists wait at a red light, chatting and checking a friend's bike. One jokingly twists the throttle, and in an instant, the motorcycle lunges forward, flipping over with its startled rider. At a busy junction, two cars approach from different directions at high speed. In a split second, one slams into the side of the other, the crash echoing through the crossing. At a busy junction, two vehicles cross paths. In an instant, a loud smash disrupts the flow of traffic. The small car loses control on the slick road. It slides sideways and crashes into a parked vehicle with a dull, heavy thud. A driver films a truck crawling down the road. Its twisted chassis and smashed panels lay bare the aftermath of a serious wreck. At a busy junction, one error triggers chaos. 5 cars crash in a massive chain reaction, turning the crossing into a scene of wreckage. A car merges onto the slick roadway, oblivious to the peril, as another vehicle skids helplessly toward it, unable to halt before the unavoidable collision. As the race starts, the car veers erratically across the circuit. Moments later, white smoke billows from its engine before it slams violently into the barrier. The small car slips on the icy road, spinning out of control. In a split second, it smashes into an oncoming vehicle, a brief loss of grip turning into a serious crash. The car loses grip on the icy surface and starts to skid sideways. With no control remaining, it smashes into the line of parked cars. A luxury car blips its engine to flaunt its power. But the sudden surge backfires, the tires lose traction, and the car slides straight into a parked vehicle. A man pours petrol on the road, chasing a dramatic effect. But when the flames catch his own car, he's forced to jump out and sprint for his life as it erupts into fire. High in the mountains, drivers make their way along a narrow roadway. Suddenly, massive boulders break free and thunder down onto the passing cars below. A car carrier lorry hauling several vehicles loses balance on the road. Within moments, it tips over, sending the loaded cars tumbling across the asphalt. Losing control on the slick road, the car slides into the opposite lane. A moment later, it smashes into an approaching vehicle with tremendous force. A bus fails to spot the car in front and slams straight into it. Pinned between two buses, the small car is mangled in a terrifying press of metal and glass. A car suddenly swerves off the road and mounts the sidewalk. It smashes into a wall, narrowly missing a person lying just a few feet away. A plane drops low above the motorway, fighting to remain airborne. Moments after, it slams onto the pavement and ignites in a blazing blast, an astonishing yet terrifying scene. An old structure stands quietly, its walls fissured and worn by age. Then it abruptly gives way, throwing up a vast dust cloud as frightened onlookers sprint for safety. The driver nods off, his car gradually drifting into the oncoming lane. A truck approaches head-on, and the crash is immediate and catastrophic. A compact car attempts to overtake another that's already passing. Losing control for a moment, it slides and slams into the vehicle in front. The small car loses grip on the icy road, veering erratically from side to side. A heartbeat later, it slides into opposing traffic, crashing head-on with another vehicle.
Yes.
Losing control, the compact car veers onto the shoulder. Within seconds, it crashes into a passing truck, the impact echoing across the roadway. A speeding car races down the road too close to the vehicle ahead. In a split second, it slams into the back of an SUV, the impact echoing through the air. A truck makes a turn with a long metal beam jutting from its bed. The beam spans the roadway, and the car behind plows straight into it, unable to stop in time. At a quiet tire shop, everything seems routine until a sudden blast shatters the calm. Within seconds, smoke and fragments fill the air, turning an ordinary day into turmoil. The driver abruptly veers into the adjacent lane without warning. The car behind slams into its side, sending the vehicle rolling over with a deafening crash. A car hauls another vehicle on a trailer down the highway. Suddenly, the trailer begins fishtailing wildly, and within seconds, it overturns, pulling both the car and its driver into a violent rollover. A stolen vehicle lost control and smashed into the fence, leaving a wake of devastation. By the roadside, a car burns intensely, flames devouring its frame. The heat warps the air as smoke billows into the cold sky, a haunting sight of devastation. One rash maneuver triggers calamity. After being cut off, the second motorist loses control and crashes into a roadside fence. A motorcyclist rides onto the railway lines, unaware of the approaching train. In the last second, he leaps clear as his bike is smashed beneath the speeding locomotive. A reckless driver cuts sharply in front of another car. The startled motorist swerves, loses control, and smashes violently into the roadside fence. At a snowy junction, one car blasts through without slowing down. In an instant, it slams into another vehicle, the crash echoing across the frozen streets. A motorcyclist rides too close to the riverbank. At the last moment, his friend leaps off, but the bike and its rider plunge straight into the water. A man and a child step into the crosswalk, unaware of a fast-moving car bearing down. In an instant, the man reacts, snatching the child and jumping to safety just before impact. Inside the garage, a group of friends examines a motorcycle, joking and chatting. Suddenly, a spark catches, and in an instant, flames envelop the bike. While attempting to park, the driver grazes the car behind, then taps the one in front. After a few seconds, the vehicle finally settles awkwardly into the space. Disregarding the red light, the driver accelerates, convinced he'll make it through. A split second later, another car slams into his side, a stark reminder that rushing on the road can cost dearly. Here, a speeding car slams into a truck at full force, yet remarkably, everyone survived. The bus swerves wildly as the driver struggles to regain control. Moments later, it crashes into the roadside barrier with a shuddering impact. Two cars enter the junction at the same time. Neither driver gives way, and their sudden crash sends debris flying across the roadway. The driver lost control and crashed straight into a pricey parked car, turning a mistake into an expensive accident. At the junction, a driver ran a red light and smashed into a turning car at full speed. Then they fled the scene immediately after the crash. At a busy junction, a van and a compact car cross paths at the wrong moment. The hit is abrupt, sending both vehicles spinning across the roadway. A speeding car races down the highway, closing in fast. In an instant, it slams into the rear of a moving truck with a thunderous crash. The car ahead begins to weave unpredictably. Moments later, the driver behind can't react in time, and a sudden crash ensues. On a quiet village lane, a driver loses control. The car veers off course and slams straight into a utility pole. Attempting to pass on an icy road, the driver loses control as the tires slide sideways. Within moments, the car drifts into oncoming traffic and catastrophe becomes unavoidable. A heavy lorry stalls in the middle of the level crossing. Moments later, a fast-moving train rams into it, ripping through the metal in a brutal collision. A truck breaks down in the middle of the railway lines. Moments later, a fast-moving train slams into it, ripping through metal with irresistible force. As a moose darts across the icy road, the bus driver swerves to avoid it. The massive vehicle skids uncontrollably, sliding sideways over the frozen surface. At a congested junction, the bus struggles to stop in time. In a heartbeat, it collides with a compact car ahead, the impact reverberating through the crossing. A small car smashes into a stationary vehicle at top speed. The force of the blow flips it over, leaving it upside down on the roadway.
Samochód zjechał. O Boże!
A driver backs up to make a turn, unaware of the steep drop behind. Miscalculating the distance, the car slips backward and plunges straight into the ravine. The car strikes a deep pothole at top speed, one that acts like a ramp. In an instant, it launches into the air, soaring several meters before smashing back down onto the road. Two heavy lorries collide head-on at high speed, the impact echoing across the road. Moments later, flames erupt from the wrecks, the debris engulfed in fire. Inside the warehouse, rows of electronic merchandise sit tidily stacked. Then sparks appear, and within moments, flames race outward as panicked workers sprint to get out. Two aircraft converge in the clear air, their trajectories tragically aligned. In an instant, they smash head-on. One corkscrews out of control and slams down in a blazing plunge. Two cars reach the junction from opposing directions. In a split second of miscalculation, they crash, flinging debris across the roadway. At a snowy junction, a car turns slowly across the lane. Suddenly, another vehicle rushes in and strikes it hard, the collision shattering the stillness of the scene. Traffic moves smoothly along the busy avenue when, with a sharp bang, the manhole covers rocket into the air, startling everyone nearby. The car slides on the slick road and drifts across the center line. In the next moment, it crashes head-on with an approaching vehicle. The small car fishtails out of control on the slick road. It slides straight into a parked truck, the impact reverberating through the quiet street. Losing control, a heavy truck careens forward uncontrollably. It plows into the vehicles ahead, sparking a massive and terrifying domino effect crash. A small car surges ahead with no sign of slowing. In an instant, it slams full force into the back of a truck, the jolt rattling the entire roadway.
Meu Deus!
On a country road, a buffalo charges after a fleeing man. Cornered, it rears onto two legs and crashes into a nearby car with a burst of raw force. The motorist tried to pass a bus, but misjudged the gap, colliding with a passing vehicle and causing a shocking, horrific wreck. A car smashed into a pole and was badly crumpled, but the driver calmly got out and began stomping on the damage, trying to repair it himself. A driver tries to cut off the car ahead, pushing the risk a bit too far. Within seconds, the maneuver backfires. The car fishtails and slams into a roadside fence. The driver nods off for just a moment. That moment is enough. The car smashes into a truck's rear wheel and overturns violently. At an intersection, a small mound of dirt and a downed tree sit in the middle of the road. A speeding car strikes them head-on, launching into the air before smashing back down with a thunderous impact. A car disregards the lowered gate and drives onto the tracks. Mere seconds later, a train hurtles through, smashing into the vehicle with devastating force. A calm morning commute erupts into chaos as a city bus collides head-on with a heavy truck. What started as an ordinary drive suddenly turns into a fight for survival. Two cars charge toward each other on a snowy road, visibility fading in the winter haze. A moment later, they collide head-on, the force of impact scattering debris across the frozen ground. At a busy junction, two trucks slam into each other. One rolls onto its side, dumping sand from its open bed across the roadway. Sparks flicker softly along the overhead wiring. Moments later, the electrics flare into flame, sending fire racing across the ceiling panels. A car hurtles down the highway when suddenly a wheel comes off. It bounces along the lane and smashes into the windshield of the vehicle behind. At a busy junction, two cars collide in a sudden smash. Moments later, at the very same spot, an SUV loses control and crashes into a pole. A speeding car fails to notice a stopped vehicle ahead. The collision turns the parked car into a ramp, catapulting the speeding vehicle into the air for a startling, gravity-defying moment. A small car loses control and swerves toward a man standing beside his vehicle. He leaps just in time, landing on the hood as the car screeches to a stop. At a crowded junction, a car speeds through and slams into a passing van. The collision is so forceful that the van overturns, coming to rest on its side. A small car cuts sharply in front of a truck, forcing the driver to swerve left. The truck smashes into another alongside it, while the reckless car speeds away from the scene. At the junction, one car begins a cautious turn, but another speeding straight through crashes into it. The quiet street erupts with the sound of impact. A small car travels too near a heavy lorry on a crowded road. In an instant, it's pulled beneath the enormous wheels, leaving no time to respond. In broad daylight, an intoxicated driver zigzags through traffic, dismissing every warning sign. His reckless display ends suddenly as the car dives into a nearby pond. In a quiet neighborhood, a manhole suddenly detonates beside parked cars. Thick white smoke pours out, engulfing the street within moments. An intoxicated driver raced down the road, smashing into everything in his way. After parking, he strolled off as if nothing occurred, but officers soon apprehended him. The driver loses command on a narrow lane. The car swerves offline and slams into a parked vehicle with a loud crunch. The car loses grip on the icy road as it nears the junction. Sliding out of control, it slams into the side of another vehicle, crossing the lane. The vessel glides calmly over the water, its occupants at ease and unsuspecting. Suddenly, fire breaks out on deck, and the crew scrambles frantically to extinguish the blaze. A gasoline tanker drifts onto the shoulder as the driver nods off. It slams into a fence, and within seconds, the rear tank flips and detonates in a fiery blast witnessed by passing cars. A heavy lorry drifts too near the shoulder. It plows into a parked car, crushing the smaller vehicle beneath its weight. A tranquil day at the marketplace unfolds as people peruse the booths. Within moments, a dense white plume envelops the vicinity, consuming everything and everyone in view. A cyclist crosses the road without getting off. The car ahead brakes sharply to avoid hitting him, but the vehicle behind can't stop in time and crashes into it. At a smelting facility, a driver carefully tips waste into the molten pool. Suddenly, the molten metal bubbles and erupts, splashing searing liquid onto the vehicle. A car rockets through a puddle, soaking a passing cyclist in muddy water. But karma hits fast. Moments later, the driver loses control and skids off the road. A car stalls on the railway tracks, its driver paralyzed by fear. Just in time, another driver rushes over with a tow rope and hauls the vehicle to safety moments before calamity. A heavy lorry loses control on the icy road, swerving across the center line. In a split second, it crashes head-on into another truck coming from the opposite direction. The car's driver nodded off and drifted into the oncoming lane. The truck collided at full speed, leaving no chance of escape. A car attempts to merge into the right lane, miscalculating the gap. It grazes the vehicle ahead, overturns, and comes to a halt upside down in the middle of the road. A woman steps off the sidewalk, oblivious to the oncoming fast-moving car. The motorist jerks the wheel at the last moment, only to smash into the parked car behind. A tractor climbs a slight incline, fighting to keep its balance. Suddenly, it leans too far and rolls backward, crashing heavily onto the ground. Driving along a frozen shoulder, the truck's wheel slips onto the snowy verge. As it spins helplessly, the huge vehicle begins to slide until it finally tips off the road into the drift below. The helicopter descends cautiously toward the touchdown area, but an abrupt lean turns accuracy into calamity as it slams down on contact. Crazy crashes, epic saves, don't blink. Like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping moments.